Hi everyone, Sane Man here. This video is brought to you by a donation from Nathaniel, and he didn't give me a specific topic, so I want to cover the issue of what makes a woman a good catch. Far too often we hear the phrase from women that he's a good catch, but so is a nice bass until it gets devoured. Everyone knows what makes a man a good catch. He's tall, handsome, rich, funny, and successful. You know all the things that a woman isn't. So women in their insane attempts to get a good catch have actually tried to make themselves into good catches as well by playing the female chameleon. But they're also increasingly confused, especially many of the female millennials I speak with, and especially the ones born in the early 2000s. They seem to think that men think that a woman is a good catch if she has a successful career and makes a good income. When I tell these young women that men are attracted to them for the way that they look in their 20s and want them for their reproductive value and measure how good of a catch they are based on their appearance and physical health and not how much of a career or social mobility that she has, they often lose it. Millennials tell me that being successful in their career is important to attracting a mate, yet very few of the ones that I've actually spoken to have any actual plans for a successful career. I ask them what they're passionate about and they have no idea what they want to do in life, especially the girls. It's kind of discouraging because at that age, I already knew that I enjoyed doing the things that I was good at, and I was either going into psychology or photography/media production. Ironically, I'm discussing psychology all the time here on my MGTOW channel, and I also use my media skills as well on a daily basis. The teenage girls I've spoken to tell me that personality in guys is more important than looks these days. Sure, looks are important, but they say that personality traits are just as important, if not more so. I told those same girls that eventually money, cars, and other things that guys have will also be important in a few years. They just stayed quiet and didn't say anything about it. I pretty much suspected that they already knew this, but they just didn't want to share it. But what I also found disturbing is that women don't seem to understand, or maybe they are pretending not to understand, that to be a good catch is all about their looks, manners, and work ethic. Good looks will basically get them into the door with most men. Manners mean that she's going to get in good with your mother and family. A good work ethic means that she's going to work hard at any job and become successful even if it means working her way up from the bottom. My mother would always say a good woman is one that could pretty much keep a plant alive, but ironically all the women I've ever dated ended up neglecting their plants and they all died. Even when they were plants that required very little light and water, they all reached a dead end. With regards to women becoming a good catch, they often spend their early 20s getting an education, and then their late 20s working and having a social life, and by the time they get into their 30s, they think they're actually a good catch, but they don't seem to understand how important looks are to most men. I'm not just talking about good genes and a pretty face, I'm also discussing skin quality, youth, and fertility. I think that girls and women are encouraged more than they should be to get an education and career, that their parents and the educational faculties are failing to socialize them, that their worth is actually tied up in biology. I blame third-wave feminism for this because it was actually the third wave that said that there are no biological differences between men and women, and that we're all pretty much equal. But pretty please still give us our subsidies, grants, and bursaries. Fourth-wave feminism, on the other hand, is teaching women that a woman that's a good catch is a land whale. But I think the majority of men are looking for an attractive mermaid instead of Moby Dick, unless Moby Dick is a nickname for the local transgendered obese woman, and they're into such nonsense. Whatever floats your boat, or in this particular case, whatever sinks it. Feminism, it seems, has changed the priorities of women so much that women no longer know what men want anymore. Just like men aren't being taught about female nature, I also don't think that women are being taught about female nature anymore, or male nature either. Both sexes are being taught that we're the same and that we want the same things from each other. So when I hear young millennial women say they want a guy with a nice personality, that can either be a lie or it could be a version of the truth that young women are buying into these days. In that particular case, I told those girls that they want a good-looking guy with a good personality right now, but eventually he's got to be successful in his career, drive a nice car, own a nice apartment, and have money to spend on them. That's when they went quiet and didn't say anything, and I think I actually brought out the truth and they knew it, so they kept their mouths shut the rest of the time because I had them pegged. I also think that a man expects far less in a woman that's a good catch than a woman expects from a man. A man wants someone that doesn't nag and is basically soft-spoken and pleasant to be around. Yet the woman wants someone that's going to put her in her place and talk down to her. Ironically, in most couples, the woman is a loudmouth demon, while the man is a pussy-whipped pussycat. Everything that once made a woman a good catch no longer does, according to this new strange world that we're entering in. A thin, young, attractive woman used to be a good catch. Now the good catch is approaching middle-aged with a career, 40 extra pounds because she says that everyone loves more cushion for the pushin', and a sassy attitude which is pretty much code word for bitch. The generation of millennial men are being told that a good woman has these qualities, but everything I just mentioned was considered bad a generation or two. This is what happens when women take over the educational industrial complex, marketing, as well as the traditional media. They promote the idea that a washed-up woman with more sexual experience than a worn-out dildo is what men should be looking for in a partner. Making a hoe into a housewife is not possible, but it's actually preferable. This is what liberal values are doing to this current generation. They're making life easier and easier to the point where doing anything to better oneself becomes too difficult. You don't need to work hard because you're entitled to an easy life. You don't have to sacrifice because you'll just take what you want from others that have supposedly already taken things away from you. Eventually, cultural Marxism will turn to real Marxism, and if you don't believe me, just look around the world. People don't seem to own anything these days. They rent their own Airbnbs, and they do the car or ride-sharing thing as well. The sharing economy is the first step to communism. After all, if you don't have any skin in the game, it's easier to take from those who have money and assets. Another thing I forgot to mention about women that make the perfect catch these days is they actually have to be covered in tattoos. They need a full arm sleeve or their entire back covered. Again, people that were tattooed in the past were considered those living on the margins like prostitutes, sailors, and sycophants. Another difference between men and women that are a good catch is that a man, when he's a good catch, is basically shamed for it. They're told, you're such a good catch, you shouldn't be single. When you hear women say things like that, they're telling you to go out and become a sacrificial lamb for some woman out there. But if a woman is a good catch, she can't be told she's a good catch because either that comes across as creepy or because it implies that she needs a man in her life. That's another lie that's part of this bizarre world that we're living in. Women need men in their lives for at the very least emotional stability, but also physical stability in the past. While men can get along perfectly without female attention, yet women are always shaming men for being alone and unmarried. If you ever watch those old Hollywood westerns, the male character is oftentimes a drifter, and they're often women on the frontier asking him why he doesn't settle down. The guys in many of these films are outlaws, misfits, and gunslingers. Not exactly marriage material, yet they're told to find a woman and settle down. As for the women, they often mimic all the things that make a man a good catch, and like a female chameleon are trying to project onto men what they value and see in men in the first place. Nikola Tesla observed this almost a century ago when he was asked why he would never marry, and these were his words, and I quote, "In place of the soft-voiced, gentle woman of my reverent worship," Mr. Tesla says, "has come the woman who thinks that her chief success in life lies in making herself as much as possible like a man, in dress, voice, and actions, in sports and achievements of every kind," unquote. What I think Tesla was really complaining about here is that actually for women to be a catch, she needed to be a gentler creature instead of turning herself into a male. My guess is that women see successful men, and they're attracted to that type of guy, so if they project the same type of success, they basically think that men will find that appealing and come to them. To some extent, that has worked because men are being socialized to want a career-minded woman. To have a family and afford it, you actually have to marry a woman with good income-producing potential. The problem is that women are jealous of men and basically hold us in such high regard that they're now out competing us for higher-paying jobs. When they couldn't get those jobs on their own, they went to the government to rig the market so they would always get them. Now women are out succeeding men and are becoming too good of a catch when it comes to earnings potential, so they're now pricing themselves right out of the market. The men that are fishing for them and trying to catch them are like those three poor souls at the end of the Jaws film, and I think they're going to need a bigger boat to catch that land whale. Apparently the woman's ego and earnings power is too large for the fishing boats to haul out of the water, and women have become like politically correct great white sharks, basically waiting to hunt men down and have them for lunch. It's no longer safe to swim in that water. As for those teenage millennials that I mentioned earlier, they often ask me what they should do, and I told them to limit themselves to as few male partners as possible to limit the amount of emotional baggage that they carry. Of course, we all know they're not going to listen to a single word I have to say until around 15 to 20 years go by and they have more baggage than FedEx. But at that point, it'll obviously be too late. I also suggested that they date guys that are slightly higher than them on the attractiveness scale, so if they're 6s, they should actually be together with guys that are 7s or 8s, but not to chase the 9s and 10s, because those guys can have pretty much any girl they want. I told them what happens in relationships today is that the less attractive women get together with the more attractive men. They had a hard time grasping this particular concept. I don't think they're fully aware of how their internal hypergamy works yet. I'm sure that in another 5 to 10 years they will understand perfectly what I've been saying right up to now. Right now, though, they're actually looking for a good-looking guy with personality. That's the guy that's a catch when he's in high school. But pretty soon that guy is no longer going to be a good catch unless he has assets. Also, teenage girls and guys are experimenting with love, so it's easier to date way above or way below your level in high school. But once you get into the real world, that becomes a lot more difficult. Suddenly, for a woman to be a catch for some guy, she also has to roll in the right social circles to find the right guy. Do you really think that hipster chicks want to dress like bums to go after the hipster guys that are basically pretending to be poor, starving vagabond writers and creative types when in fact those guys are living off of their trust fund money? It's like all the hipster guys have figured out that to attract young, gorgeous women, all they have to do is dress like a bad boy bum and hide all their money while showing the girl a good time and making her feel valued. She, of course, will probably pretend to be cool with being poor, but we all know that what she really wants is the access to those ones and zeros in the hipster bank account. So sometimes projecting yourself to be poor and noble as an artist makes you look like a catch as well, so long as you actually have the financial resources behind you for the eventual day when they get sick and tired of being poor. Anyways, that's all I've got to say for today. Thanks again, Nathaniel, for your donation. I emailed you for the topic but got no response. If you sent your question someplace else, I might have actually missed it, so please send me another one and I'll do another video for you. Also, don't forget to smash the like button below this video and check out the MGTOW mystery link. As for everyone else out there, please follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook to get tomorrow's video today. Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills. And remember, a red pill a day keeps the female sharks and land whales away. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.